lawsuit for false advertising.
Taco Bell facing a class action lawsuit accused of false advertising.
This is the lawsuit Taco Bell was recently hit with. It argues that Taco Bell is falsely advertising how much beef and ingredients are in Crunchwraps and Mexican pizzas. I mean, the pictures submitted are pretty wild compared to the ads. But Taco Bell isn't alone. In the last couple years, almost every fast food chain has been hit with one of these lawsuits from customers who feel betrayed when they expect to get this and they get this. So I dug into the underbelly of fast food advertising to better understand if and how fast food advertisements are lying to us, because it sure looks like it. And what are the repercussions if they are?
Hi, welcome. How may I serve you?
Can I get a Whopper?
So, Burger King was the first to be hit with one of these lawsuits back in April of 2022. It claimed Burger King misled its customers by portraying its food much larger than what they actually serve. The suit claims this started around 2017 and alleges that before 2017, they advertised food more fairly. The suit even went as far as putting percentages on it, claiming that the burgers were 35% larger and that it appeared to have double the meat. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of meat, but it's just because it's falling out of the burger. This looks nothing like what they advertise.
Whopper, Whopper, Whopper.
All right, this might be the nostalgia talking, but it's not so bad. It looks worse than it tastes. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. Okay, so the next to catch a suit were McDonald's and Wendy's just 1 month later.
What can I go for you? Yeah, can I get a quarter pounder with cheese?
It claimed something like Burger King, that the restaurants were actually showcasing burgers that are 15 to 20% larger than what they're actually serving. I mean, look at this. This doesn't look like a quarter pounder. This looks so tiny. This is a tenth of a pound probably. There's no way this is quarter. Tastes like McDonald's. I mean, I feel like that's all you can really say about that. And finally, just a couple weeks ago, Taco Bell was hit with the same exact lawsuit.
Can I get a Crunchwrap Supreme?
Okay. What else?
And a Mexican pizza?
Okay.
A little bit of meat. It literally, each side is an inch from the edge. So the common denominator of all these suits is size. Obviously, size matters to consumers. And to me, visually, these lawsuits have serious ground to stand on. It seems clear as day this is false and deceptive advertising. But here's the thing, I don't really know what that means from a legal standpoint. How do you determine what is and what isn't false advertising? And as it turns out, it's a lot more complicated than you think. In 1914, the Federal Trade Commission Act was established. This empowered the FTC to investigate and prevent unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices affecting commerce. In Section 15, it defines false advertising as so. The term false advertisement means advertisement other than labeling, which is misleading in a material aspect, and in determining whether an advertisement is misleading, there shall be taken into account, among other things, not only representation made. I have no idea what this is saying. Now, something a bit clearer we did find was the FTC's policy on deception. Little bit easier to understand. They list out elements of what is considered deceptive advertising. And the first part says this. First, there must be a representation, omission, or practice that is likely to mislead the consumer. Then it lists some other ways, and one is the use of bait and switch techniques. I don't know about you, but this seems like some real bait and switch. Here's what you're advertised, and here's what you actually get. To help visualize this concept, I want to show you one of the early cases of deceptive advertising in food marketing. So in 1968, Campbell's, the beloved soup company, was doing a photo shoot for an upcoming ad. Well, their food stylist noticed the vegetables in the soup kept sinking to the bottom, making the soup not nearly as appetizing as it should be. It was basically just liquid with some vegetables. His solution? Clear marbles. So when the soup was poured in the bowl, the vegetables would sit on top of the marbles, making it seem like Campbell's soup was filled with more ingredients than it actually was. Now, this is pretty petty, but the only reason Campbell's got a call from the FTC was because of their rival, Heinz. Heinz claimed Campbell's ad was deceptive advertising, and that they had proof. Somehow Heinz got their hands on photos showing the marbles in the bottom technique used by Campbell's. Honestly, I think Heinz was just mad because the soup looked better than theirs did, when in reality, Heinz was probably doing the same exact thing. But in the end, Campbell's got away with just a little slap on the wrist after publicly admitting in court what they did. The FTC eventually dropped the suit, but it did set the precedent at the time for the food styling and advertising. However, it didn't last.
I find it fascinating that the fast food industry is so egregious in their advertising.
This is Anthony Russo. He's the lawyer behind each of these cases. Yes, the Burger King suit, McDonald's and Wendy suit, and the Taco Bell suit.
Start with something as simple as fast food. What's to say there won't be a car or a house or something else? You know, it's really about stopping at this point and calling them to the carpet on it.
There is a difference between lawsuits where consumers are saying, this is what it looks like in the ad, and this is what I received, and just the difference in how it looks. And those kind of lawsuits are really almost always a dud, because as reasonable consumers, you know, from the time we're little kids, we've seen it on TV, we've ordered it, we've all been disappointed. So most courts will say, we all know it. You all know it. Now, I think the Taco Bell case is a little different because we're not just talking about appearances, but here they're really talking about the quantity of food. And so I think this case may have a little more teeth than just an appearance case.
Which is where these lawsuits do have real ground to stand on. You see, if McDonald's sells a quarter pounder, they base that weight off of the uncooked burger patty. And when it's fully cooked, it shrinks to the size you get, which makes total sense. That's pretty standard when it comes to burger sizing at any restaurant. But what baffles me is that in their ads, the food stylist doesn't cook the burger all the way, just the edges. So they're advertising you a raw burger because it looks bigger and better than the shrunken down fully cooked patty you actually get served. Basically, brands are saying, here's what a burger would look like if we served you an uncooked burger. Honestly, if your burger ever looked like that, don't eat it, because the perfect burger is inedible apparently to these brands.
The best eatery in town.
And here's the thing, that is deceptive. You're advertising food that is supposed to be edible, but the food in the ad is inedible. The reality is the hundreds of millions these companies spend helps them get away with these deceptive ads.
The issue you'll find with the FTC and also corresponding state agencies is that their resources are so limited. You know, they've really got to focus on deceptions that are going to, you know, physically, mentally harm consumers, things that are really going to affect consumers' pocketbook. Even when they do, marketers just see it as a cost of doing business.
So the FTC won't protect us, even though it's their entire job. Well, maybe these class action lawsuits will bring them to their knees.
Generally, I would say the real winners in class action lawsuits are plaintiffs' attorneys, who always get a big chunk of change when these things settle, and most settle. And then a lot of times, ironically, the defendant, the company or the brand, gets a really large protection in the form of the settlement agreement. Most times it requires the entire class to say, we're never going to sue you again. False advertising, deceptive marketing works, and it is economically advantageous for those who do it.
Okay, just to clarify, the FTC doesn't have enough resources to take on these cases, and the brands see these class action lawsuits as part of doing business, and the lawyers behind the cases make a good chunk of change from doing them, and the lawsuits also protect the brands in the end? So, does this Taco Bell lawsuit stand a chance? Yes, but it seems like they'll settle for a couple million to make it easily go away. And now, will this suit change how the industry and fast food companies advertise? No, it won't.